How many who are here right now will not be with us tomorrow? I thought so. Well, I'll be here tomorrow, God willing. How many here walked up all those steps to take darshan of Yoga Nrsimha? How many were unable to walk up all those steps? Really? Did you fly? Took a helicopter. Your mother made it, right? She did. This is the last temple that we'll be visiting. And a little bit of the history behind this temple that we're visiting. There's a section in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South India travel or tour where he visited this place. We mentioned it, that it's known, it's identified by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami by a different name, Trikuta. But many places have different names. And as you saw, there's Trikuta, there's 3 domes, and within there's 3 deities, and Vira Narayana is one of those 3 deities, and Yoga Nrsimha and Venugopal, Krishna with the flute. But somehow Krishna with the flute has by his side Satyabhama and Rukmini. So somehow it got a little mixed up. The Pujari explained that the history behind the Vira Nrsimha comes from Vishnu Purana, which is, has narrations, some narrations that are different from Bhagavad Purana. Something I heard from one of the pujaris that took us around in the previous temple was that there's a narration. Well, something that I already knew is Madhvacharya did not, although he was a scholar and a lover from childhood of this Bhagavad Purana, he did not accept the kidnapping of the cowherd boys and calves, that chapter from Bhagavatam. Because, Brahma makes a boo-boo and Brahma doesn't make a boo-boo. So he just didn't accept it. I've heard that many times. I don't know if I assume it's a fact, but according to this, he was pretty adamant that there are some other sections of the Bhagavatam that he didn't accept. Anyway, it's not so common. So as we heard, this is one of the temples that the disciple of Ramanujacharya built at his request, Vira Nrsimha. In the morning class, we spent some time discussing, at a principle based, not a detailed based of discussion of our 2005 and 2011, which is quite some years ago, visit to South India following the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the morning class, we outlined 4 particular sections where Lord Chaitanya demonstrated his mood and his mission, distributing the holy name and distributing bhakti very liberally, but with different strategies for different persons. And the topic for now is his visit to Udupi. And when he visited Udupi, he spoke of the followers of Madhvacharya as Tattvavadis. So I thought it would be nice to get a nice definition. What does Tattvavadi mean anyways? Tattvavadi. We've all heard the term, Tattvavadis. When it's used, what does it imply? Well, here's one way of understanding. 2 of the books, apparently there were 39 books, along with commentaries, part of the 39, where the title is Tattva. Tattva Sankhya and Tattva Viveka. 2 Tattva books. And in those books, Madhvacharya, expressed in his writings what are tattvas or truths, or some translators have expressed it, that which is real. So some of you may remember, many of you probably remember, that the principal commentator on Madhvacharya's writings was Jayatirtha. So Jayatirtha, in his commentaries on those 2 writings, gives the following definition of what tattva, and then there's a tattvavadi. Vadi means one who holds the doctrine of. Vada is doctrine. Vadi means one who holds the doctrine of tattva. So what tattva is, simple language, that which is not superimposed. No, it's in contrast, it's in opposition to Shankara's teachings, because Shankara's teaching says something is superimposed on Brahman. And what's that that's superimposed upon Brahman? Something that doesn't exist. Or illusion. That which doesn't exist is illusion. Doesn't exist. Jagat mithya. So Jagat is something that doesn't exist. It's not a tattva. It's just a superimposition upon that which exists. So a definition of tattva, and a direct counteraction to Shankara's teachings, is that which is not superimposed, but it really exists. So then the real exists that's what it isn't. Here's what it is. That which is an object of valid cognition. Not just cognition, but valid cognition. Or knowledge. That's a tattva. And then there's different tattvas. So what are some of those different tattvas? Well, Vyasatirtha, who is the annotator of the commentaries of Jayatirtha, who makes the commentaries on Madhva, he expressed there's 9 tenets or tattvas in amongst the Tattvavadis, or the followers of Madhvacharya. I'm going to just read them because you've heard them already more than once, but here they are. The language of Vyasatirtha is slightly different, but the essence is still there. Hari Paratara. Hari is supreme. That's easy. Number 2, Satyam Jagat. The world, Jagat, is true. Satyam Jagat. That's 2. Hari is supreme. The world is true. Tattvato Beda. And the difference between them is another reality. that hasn't gotten yet to jivas, they're also a tattva. And by their classification, harir anuchara, they're servants of Hari. And that's a tattva. By classification, that tattva is jivas are servants of Hari, and they're real. And that's another tattva. And the Sanskrit is different, but the jivas may go up or down. They may achieve higher or lower status based upon how they live their life. And therefore, a parallel to these tenets is following of Varnashram, because those who are followers of Varnashram can go up. Whatever their position is, they can go up. Or if they don't, they can go down. And then just three more. Bhakti is the means of achieving more than up. It's a means of achieving the highest destination. And then an interesting one, it's not exactly expressed in the standard Nava Prameyas, but there's three things that constitute authority, pramana. So Shabda Pramana, Anuman Pramana, and Pratyaksha Pramana. According to Vyasa Tirtha, these are means of knowing things, or authority. That's lesser, then greater, then best. But he doesn't rule them out. In other words, we listen to Prabhupada speaking, and he'll use reason and logic all the time, resting upon Shabda. But it's reason and perception resting upon Shabda, scripture. And that's the springboard, and then he bounces on the springboard with reason and logic. Here's an example. Dehi nosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara. So that's a statement of scripture, and then to explain it, he uses reason and logic. It's an observable. We use the senses. We use a reason and logic that says something going on from babyhood to boyhood to youth to old age, and as the soul transmigrates to those phases, it's logical. It's also scriptural, but something happens to the soul after that. The soul, the one gets another body. Deha antara praptir. It's logic. It's scriptural, based on logic, based on scripture. I heard another one that I really liked recently. I mean, there's certain ones that Prabhupada says over and over and over and over and over and over. Okay, I got it. There's the body. You say chemicals are missing. What's the difference between a living body and a dead body? Chemicals. Very good. Scientist, inject some chemicals. Can you do it? It's just chemicals missing. That's your, we're working on it. Kick on your face with boot. In the future. But here's another one. Nature is like a machine, or nature is a machine, and so is an automobile. And if you say the reason why the automobile doesn't work anymore is because some parts are missing, very well, put some parts in and see if the automobile will move. I say it's because the driver got out of the car. When the driver gets back in the car, the automobile will move. What's the difference between a living body and a dead body is the soul isn't there. Very reasonable. I mean, that's Anuman, resting upon Shabda. So, back to Shankar, back to Madhvacharya. It's one of his Vyasatirtha's statements of one of his fundamental tattvas. And then the final one is the purpose of all the Vedas is to know Hari. The purpose of all the Vedas is to know Hari. So that's a Tattvavadi, one who holds those tattvas to be truth, to be self-evident truths. Doesn't require proof because it just is. That's a tattva. It's observable, but it's irrevocable truth. Now, another rendering is something we already discussed. And I'll just review it because it's different than what we're used to. And that is the destination of the jiva depends upon their adhikar. But it's not that you can change your adhikar. For example, I'm sure you remember this because we showed it on the screen and everyone was going, what? Demigods can achieve Vishnu Loka. And the other category of those who can achieve Vishnu Loka are the Uttama human beings. They can achieve Vishnu Loka. And if you're not an Uttama human being, then you're a Nitya Sangsari, eternally wandering up and down. And even with the possibility of going to Tamishra, the hell. There's upper planets, by the way. The lower planets of the 14 planetary systems, that's not what hell is. There's lower planets. And then there's another place, Tamishra. So one can go to hell. That's by, misusing the human form of life, engaging in sinful activity, and then you're invited to that place. So that's a Nitya Sangsari persons. And then there's another category. There's only one option for them, and that's the lowest hell. And that included in that category, remember Sri Rupa wanted to know why he's saying, there she is, that Hiranyakashipu went to that place. Remember your question? And Kali, personality Kali, there's only one place for him, bottom. So there's categories of jivas, and it gets more complex and then more complex after that, and we're not going to go into all the complexity, but that's life as Madhvacharya sees it, according to scripture and how the lens that he looks through to explain. We can improve our condition within boundaries. And different souls have different capacity for sadhana. For example, in order to become eligible for learning and understanding Madhva's teachings, you have to be Brahmana born. So think that you can do it to become Brahmana born, but if you're not Brahmana born, you're not eligible to go to school. And you won't understand even if you went to school. That's one of his teachings. It's not becoming a Brahmin in this life like as Gaudiyas have it. Different. And therefore, because we're going to be speaking about Mahaprabhu's discussion in Udupi with some length, a very nice place where the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. We'll go to this tomorrow. There's a nice verse in Madhya Lila chapter 10. The verse number is 119. Because we'll be discussing it tomorrow. If you want to get a sneak preview, you can go. Madhya 10, 119. In that verse, Krishnadas Kaviraj is expressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different ways in one verse how Lord Chaitanya is a bearer of mercy and thus Odarya. So this is a preview of what we're going to be spending some time with tomorrow. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in one of his books that Krishna has spiritual potency. That's not a concept in Madhva's teaching. That's okay. It's in Lord Chaitanya's teaching, and it's in the scriptures. So by different name, Parashakti, Swarup Shakti, Antaranga Shakti is internal potency, we say in English. Internal, external, marginal potency. There's internal potency. And when Hari manifests his internal potency, it can be subjectively experienced by the person who is the recipient of his internal potency in three ways. And an invitation into that realm, the Aishvarya realm, the Madhurya realm, and the Odarya realm. So we're going to hear some more. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the distributor of Odarya realm. The Odarya realm is part of the Lord's spiritual potency, or internal potency, or Swarup Shakti, or Parashakti, or Antaranga Shakti. Mahaprabhu is giving it freely. And the destination for those who are recipients and embrace it and live by it is a certain quadrant or sector, he uses a different term, a place in Krishna Loka. I invite you, next time you have a Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 available, you'll see the depiction of the creation, material and spiritual. Here it goes like this. This is Prabhupada's cover picture, cover painting to the first canto, first 3 volumes that he brought, and it was reproduced in different iterations later. So there's the vastness of the spiritual sky. And in the vastness of the spiritual sky, there's Vaikuntha planets. By the way, we mentioned this. Madhva there's only one Vaikuntha planet. There's not unlimited Vaikuntha planets in this unlimited vastness of the spiritual sky. There's one Vaikuntha planet. But the Gaudiya picture is from Brahma Samhita, Sri Brahma Samhita. There's unlimited Vaikuntha planets floating or resting or existing in the vastness of the spiritual sky. And over there is the largest and shaped like a lotus, Goloka. And then down here in the corner, there's a cloud. Just like in the sky, there can be a cloud. So that cloud is the Mahatattva. And Mahavishnu enters into the Mahatattva, an expansion, a Purusha expansion of the Supreme Lord enters into the Mahatattva. It's not like once upon a time he didn't, but he enters. It's not an ontological, it's not a chronological once upon a time. But in the corner of the spiritual sky, there's the Mahatattva, cloud of the material energy. And from him comes countless universes, etc. And then look closely next time you're with your Bhagavatam set in first canto. Look closely at Goloka Vrindavan. And you'll see from the original that Prabhupada had, one portion is where's Lord Chaitanya conducting Sankirtan. And that portion is called Svetadweep, and it's the place where those who are the recipients of Odarya Shakti go. We'll hear some more tomorrow. Stay tuned. Now that's Odarya, back to the topic of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That's the feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's distributing that feature of the Lord's spiritual potency freely. All aboard. Come on in. It's nice here. with a warm invitation, with Sankirtan and wonderful sublime teachings. So in Lord Chaitanya's South India tour, he came to Udupi. And just a gloss, he had some appreciation. He had some discerning words to say. Part of what discerning words is, he detected there was some pride, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Detecting that there was some pride in the Tattvavadis, he purposely took a very humble position and just submissively inquired. The Chief Acharya, I'm just going to read verses from this section. It starts on 254. Madhya 9, 254. The chief Acharya of the Tattvavad community was very learned in the revealed scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu humbly questioned him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I do not know very well the aim of life and how to achieve it. It's the starting point, the starting point of his discussion with Ramananda Roy, but it took a different tack. Humble. I don't know very well the aim of life and how to achieve it. Please tell me the best ideal for humanity and how to attain it, the goal and the means. Sadhya and sadhana. The Acharya replied, Varnashram. When the 4 castes and 4 ashrams are dedicated to Krishna, I mean, the Sanskrit is not 4 castes, it's just Varnashram Dharma. Krishna Samarpana. That means they're dedicated to Krishna, the activity and the fruits of the activity, both dedicated to Krishna. They constitute the best means whereby one can attain the highest goal of life. And, for them, for Tattvavadis, is moksha. And that was one of the things that Mukhya Pran was ordered by Lord Narayan, is to, take people back to the path of moksha by proper rendering of the statements of the Vedas. So here we go. When one dedicates the duties of Varnashram Dharma to Krishna, he is eligible for 5 kinds of liberation. Thus, he is transferred to the spiritual world in Vaikuntha. Now, you may remember, in Madhvacharya, there's 3 concepts of Vishnu Loka, and one of them is the abode of Dhruva Loka, Sweta Dweep, that's in this material world, the spiritual planet within this material world. So that's one of the attaining Vaikuntha or Vishnu Loka. And the others are not eligible for that, for beyond that. You have to be a demigod or very elevated soul, an Uttama soul. This is the highest goal of life and the verdict of all revealed scriptures. So just two verses. Now, let's go to the discussion with Ramananda Roy. When the discussion with Ramananda Roy took place, the same question, basically the same answer. There was a Vishnu Purana reference where, according to Vishnu Purana, it says essentially the same thing. And what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in that case was bhaya. It's external. Bhaya, internal, external. Not fear, but bhaya, external. Go further. But that's not exactly what he said, because the audience was different in this case. In the case of Ramananda Roy, he was also vastly learned, but he was a bhakta. And so in this particular acharya is being introduced as a little proud. So the response is a little different. So Mahaprabhu, although he just got through saying, I'm not very learned in scripture, could you please instruct me? Now he's going to instruct the Acharya. According to the verdict of the Shastras, the process of hearing and chanting is the best. Shastre kahe shravana kirtana. Krishna prema seva palera. The pala, the fruit, is Krishna prema, or loving service to the personality of Godhead. This is the parama sadhana. So the question, remember the question? What's the sadhya? What's the sadhana to achieve the sadhya? The goal of life and the means to achieve it. So the goal of life is Krishna prema, loving service. And the means to achieve it is Shravana Kirtana. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a number of scriptural references, starting with the 9 processes of bhakti. Where is the 9 processes of bhakti found? You know the verse. Where does it come from? Prahlad's teachings, right? Very good. I knew that you knew. Let's say the verse together. Everyone knows this one. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu, smaranam pada sevanam, archanam vandanam dasyam, sakyam atma nivedanam. And then there's a second verse that goes with it. Iti pangsarpita Vishnu, bhaktis chain navalakshana, kriyeta bhagavat yada, tanmanye ditam uttamam. Uttamam. That's the topmost destination. These 9 processes, starting with hearing and chanting, which is what he said. And then that's the process, and then the goal. Shravana Kirtana Haite Krishna Haya Prema Se Panchama Purushartha. Yeah, Panchama Purushartha. When one comes to the platform of loving service to Lord Krishna by executing these 9 processes, beginning with hearing and chanting, he has attained the 5th platform of success, Panchama Purushartha. What's Purushartha? The 4, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So you're saying moksha, and I'm saying pancha Purushartha. Panchama Purushartha, the 5th stage. So what's beyond moksha? Krishna prema. Beyond moksha. Really? That's Mahaprabhu speaking. And then he gives scriptural reference. When a person is actually advanced and takes pleasure in chanting the holy name, who is very dear to him, he is agitated and loudly chants the holy name. He also laughs, cries, becomes agitated, and chants just like a madman, not caring for outsiders. This is a teaching in the 11th canto Bhagavatam. And now Mahaprabhu's, after giving scriptural references, this is his discussion. In every revealed scripture, there is condemnation of fruitive activities. Now, he didn't say do fruitive activities. He said do them according to the Varnashram system for Krishna. It is advised everywhere to give up engagements in fruitive activities, for no one can attain the highest goal of life, love of God, by executing them. Another scriptural reference. Occupational duties are described in the religious scriptures. If one analyzes them, this is not a verse, this is Mahaprabhu's teaching, he can fully understand their qualities, prescribed duties from scriptures, their qualities and faults, and then give them up completely to render service unto the Supreme Personality of God. This doesn't mean he's advocating the goal is he become a sannyasi, because we already heard in the morning class his explanation to Kurma Brahman. Do these and they're not impediments. Stay in your household situation. These household duties, their involvements in worldly things are not impediments. How are they not impediments? Do you find some impediments? I'm a sannyasi and I hear grahastas complaining. Not severely, but it's complicated. I mean, wait till we're done with this yatra and you go back to wherever you came from. It's different life. That's okay. It's not an impediment if it's dedicated according to what Mahaprabhu said. Along with dedicating your duties unto Krishna as chanting Hare Krishna, then you can spiritualize those activities, and they're poof. They're no longer impediments. Or at least they're not impediments to the goal. They may be, complicated, make your head spin a little bit when you can't figure things out. That's okay. They're not impediments to the goal. If you're clear what the goal is, it's important to be clear what the goal is. Krishna Prema, or service to the Supreme. So you can dedicate in service to the Supreme. There's a very nice description, same thing, I like a lot. In the final 5 verses of Brahma Samhita, there's a little mini Brahma Samhita sidebar. There's three main parts to Brahma Samhita. The steps that Brahma undergoes, so he's now ready to perform this service that's been given to him, the process of creation. And there's lots of nice understanding about all of that. And he gets these 2 mantras, and he chants these 2 mantras, and then he becomes well acquainted with the ocean of truth. That's part 1. And then part 2 is the Govindam prayers, celebrated Govindam prayers, where he's now expressing his realizations about his being well acquainted with the ocean of truth. What's the ocean of truth? And then the third part is, when he's done with the Govinda prayers, he turns to Krishna and says, wait a minute, I got to go back to the office. The yatra's over, and now I got to go back and do my occupational duties. He says, I got to build the universe. And if I build the universe, then how am I going to remember all this elevated realization? Or how do I go back to school and do my homework? Well, I'm in this elevated state now. I don't want to go back to school. What do I do? But I got to build the universe because you want me to build the universe. So help. What should I do? And the following 5 verses are nice ones for you to read, along with all the other rest of the book is a concept is presented using Bhaktisiddhanta's language. There's the primary activities of bhakti, the same 9. We recited them. And then there's the subsidiary, other than the 9. That's the material part of your life. The building of a universe, part of Brahma's life. And he has another term. There's Sarup Bhakti, and there's Gona Bhakti. And Gona Bhakti, it comes from the same root as Guna. It's, involving, it's secondary. The way that he translates the Gona Dharma, Paradharma, and Gona Dharma, primary and secondary. When you do the secondary conjoined with the primary, then it purifies the secondary. Just doing this is the discussion here. Don't just do the secondary dedicated to Krishna. Do the primary conjoined with the secondary. And principle is accompanied with the chanting of the holy name, and etc. Worshipping the deity, form of the Lord, etc., etc. The principal activities of bhakti. There's qualities and faults with duties in this world. There's qualities and there's faults. A person who gives them up and just does paradharma, conjoined with the subsidiary activities, they're a first-class person. Then he quotes, the verse that we've been speaking about several times, 1866. Let's say it together. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshaya shamibhasi. Wow, everyone knows the verse. We spoke about it earlier, didn't we? One of the essential verses of Bhagavad Gita, just repeat it, according to Govinda Raja, a commentator of Ramayana, as Sri Vaishnava commentator, the whole of Ramayana is an explanation or exposition on that verse. Nice. In case you want to have a few lines to help you understand what that verse means. Then he goes back, circles back to what he said. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, one has to act according to the regular principles of Vedic injunctions. That's something that Prabhupada said about the Hare Krishna movement. I see that some of my disciples are not chanting all the rounds, and some of my disciples are not chanting all their Gayatris. They're not doing the primary, the chief of the primary, and therefore need is to establish Varnashram because it's the safety net. It's not the essence of what he wanted to give, but some persons are slack. Anyway, and also to set a standard for the rest of the world, the social system that Krishna gave. Then he goes on about moksha as far as the goal. Pure devotees reject the 5 kinds of liberation, panchavidha mukti tyaga, kare bhaktagana, palgu kari mukti deke, nara kara sama. Because they see it as not only insignificant, but hellish. Why hellish? If there's no devotional service, no thanks. Then he quotes, pure devotees always reject the 5 kinds of liberation, which include, lists them, the 5. The pure devotees do not accept these benedictions without the service of the Lord. So with the service of the Lord, it's fine. Without the service of the Lord, it's not fine. There's other scriptural references. A person who is a devotee of Lord Narayana is not afraid of a hellish condition because he considers it the same as elevation to the heavenly planets or liberation. The devotees of Lord Narayana are accustomed to seeing all these things on the same level. So that's almost it. And concluding message. Both liberation, a goal, and fruitive activity, the sadhana to reach the goal, are rejected by devotees. You are trying to establish these things as life's goal and the process for attaining it. Seeing that I am a mendicant in the renounced order of life, you have been playing with me in a duplicitous way. Like, shame on you. You have not actually described the process and the ultimate objective. And the Acharya was stunned, astonished at his faith and his exposition. And so he replied. The Tattvavadi Acharya replied, what you have said is certainly factual. It is the conclusion of all the revealed scriptures of the Vaishnavas. Now I would expect he would have said, well, wait a minute. All he says is, whatever Madhvacharya has established as the formula for our party, we practice as a party policy. Conclusion. Mahaprabhu said, both the fruitive worker and the speculative philosopher, Jnana Karma Janavritam, are considered non-devotees. We see both elements present in your sampradaya, which he's part of. The only qualification that I see in your sampradaya is that you accept the form of the Lord as truth, and that's one of their tattvas. The form of the Lord is one of the tattvas. Paratattva. Now let's go back to what we discussed in the morning. There were 4 others. Now here's number 5. And the dialogue is different because of the audience is different. But he wants, according to the audience, to help the persons from their relative perspective or positions to receive the residence in the spiritual world, residence in Goloka Vrindavan. Supposing you don't even have a concept of Goloka Vrindavan, not likely you're going to want to go there. What to speak of go there. So he Mahaprabhu, in the line of Madhvacharya and in the line of the purpose of his advent, and as we heard in the morning, the purpose of his South India tour was to fulfill his purpose of his advent. And when he went back to Jagannath Puri, he went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and got lost in exhibiting these symptoms of ecstatic love to the degree that they're not just extraordinary, but only Srimati Radharani could exhibit them, Mahabhav, the symptoms that he displayed. And there were persons, first-hand witnesses, and then those pastimes and his mind, as well as his activities, were recorded by Krishnadas Kaviraj, having heard them from Raghunath Das Goswami, who understood them from Swarup Damodar, and witnessed some of them. So that means Raghunath Das Goswami was on the same platform. And were Rupa and Sanatana Goswami not on the same platform? They were on the same platform. The approach that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to both of them was not just he gave them teachings, he instructed them thoroughly, both of them, especially Rupa, but both of them thoroughly, because you read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, long discussion on the teachings to Sanatana Goswami. And he's giving the highest teachings. But he starts with Sanatana Goswami on the lowest. All the living entities in creation, and among some of them, etc. And then he starts going up and up and up and up, and he goes to the same place. His teachings are quite consistent. His method of giving those teachings is personality specific. With Rupa and Sanatan, he wanted them to write books. And so thoroughly, and not only the teaching, but the ability to understand the teaching, that's 2 different things. And experience what they've understood. So he is the most munificent incarnation of all. We're going to hear some more tomorrow. This same series of verses, plus taken from Jiva Dharma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where the sequence of the different manifestations of the Lord's internal potency and how they impact, starting from the Aishvarya, and then the Madhurya, and then the Audarya, because that's what Mahaprabhu came to give. And that's what our South India tour, 3 years worth, or 3 yatras worth, is meant to help us get a deeper understanding of, because the subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is very elevated. One can say esoteric, not easy to understand. And that one has to have faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I mean, you have to have faith in a reality that's higher than what you know today in order to go further in the life of realizing the absolute truth. There is a higher truth. I have faith. And to know what it is depends on the Sangha that you have with faith. And Mahaprabhu is giving the highest according to the audience and the circumstance. For everybody, Hari, 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 Hari. So that's everyone can do. Children can do, old people can do, uneducated people can do, everyone can do. And there's transcendental benefit. Everyone has, there's so many nice anecdotes. And one of my favorite anecdotes is a personal one. For some number of years, I was a trade. I was a brahmachari who joined the Boston Temple in the summer of 1970. That's a few years ago. And at the end of the summer, ISKCON Press was in Boston, which is why I went there, because there was so many elevated devotees. And amongst those so many elevated devotees, they purchased a printing press and tried to run the printing press, but he wasn't so capable of running the printing press. So there was a devotee in New York named Gadadhar Prabhu that knew how to run a printing press. So there was a request, please come to run the printing press. So that in those days, I was a trade. So I went to New York in a trade for Gadadhar to run the printing press. So there I was in New York in a double brownstone building. For those of you that don't live in New York, what does that mean? It's each building 4 floors, and it's a stone building, and it's a particular kind of stone called brownstone. We didn't own it. We didn't have the money to own anything. We rented. And over on this side, on just kind of a walk up, was the temple room. And over on that side, the mirror was Prabhupada's quarters. Big space, Prabhupada's quarters. His room was in the back, and his sitting place was in the front, where he could meet with people, etc. And the temple room. So we had the practice like all temples in those days had. Everyone goes on Sankirtan that doesn't have essential, pujari, cooking, something service. Everyone goes on Sankirtan. So after the morning program, we do a little cleaning and this and that, and then go on Sankirtan. And the temple, 439 Henry Street, was right across the street from an elementary school. An elementary school had a big, tall fence, 10 feet tall, wrought iron fence. No one can get in, no one can get out. Security is Brooklyn. And when we went out, we're chanting. We came back, we were chanting from the subway, because you had to go to the subway to get to Manhattan. F train. White Skimmerhorn Street. Subway. So when we came back, we came back for lunch. And our lunch time was the same as the lunchtime for the kids. So they knew it was time for us to come back, because it was their lunchtime, our lunchtime. And they stood by the wrought iron fence and they laughed at us. Hela Namabas. You know that one? Laughing. Hela Namabas. Ha 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 ha. Oh, 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 oh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I remember very clearly, during one July, Prabhupada was visiting, and Trivikram Maharaj was a resident at that time. He said, "What do we do? What about this?" Isn't it offense? And Prabhupada said, no, very good. He didn't explain, didn't say it's a type of Abbas chanting. He just said, very good. They're chanting. It's very good. And this has happened every day, every day, every day. After some time, we moved from Henry Street to Manhattan. Many years later, I was traveling through the Detroit airport, making a connection flight to somewhere. And, the departure lounge, transit, waiting for the next flight. And I heard down the hallway, laughter. And really loud. And then they came past me. It was some airline employees. And one of them stopped and looked at me like he saw a ghost. And his friends said, come on. He said, no, I want to, I'll catch up to you just a minute. So he came up to me, dressed in a dhoti and everything. Are you a Hare Krishna? And I said, of course. He said, oh, no. Uh-oh. I didn't know what was going to happen next. He said, when I was little, I went to an elementary school right across the street from a Hare Krishna temple in Brooklyn. And I told him, I lived in that temple. And he went, oh, no. He said, we were so bad. We used to laugh at you, make fun of you. And you know what? That melody has never left me. And just as we were getting off of our duty for our lunch break here at the airport, I started singing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then as I was singing, you know what my fellow employees did? They laughed at me. And I said, I heard the laughter. He said, oh no. And he said, we were so bad. We were so bad. But now I understand. You do so much good work in all of our neighborhood. We were just little kids. You fed people. Even people. They burnt your cars. We left our cars on the street. The message was, we want that parking spot for ourselves. And the way they told us was they burnt the cars. So we didn't park on the street anymore. We had to find another place for parking. No, we were really bad. But you were just very tolerant and kind to people. Keep up the good work. Now, here's a little message, similar message, that I just want to read. This is similar. It's about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And this is a letter, I don't know the date, written to Shivaram Maharaj from a girl in Hungary. Dear Shivaram Swami, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hope you don't mind my writing to you. I've never written to a spiritual master before. You do not know me. My name is Bhaktin Dora, and I live in Pécs, which is a city in Hungary. I'm 14 years old, and I live at home with my mother and older sister. Paragraph. Some years ago, I went to the Hare Krishna festival with a friend. I was not very interested, but I enjoyed the chanting and dancing. At the end, after it was over, I bought a book, Science of Self-Realization. I don't know why. Generally, I never read. I think it was because of the chanting. Paragraph. I took the book home and cannot remember what happened to it. One day my mother found it, and she was very angry with me. She thought I was reading this kind of thing. You see, our family members are all very strict Catholics. They thought Krishna consciousness was some kind of brainwashing. Actually, I wasn't reading the book. I'd forgotten all about it. Somehow it just, quote, appeared. Anyway, my mother was going to throw it away. My grandmother, who is 68, was in the kitchen at the time. She lives in the apartment upstairs. She came in and took the book. She looked at it and scolded me in a very heavy way. I thought that would be the end of it. I did not mind so much as I was in a lot of Maya at that time. About a week later, I overheard a conversation between my mother and grandmother. Granny was saying that this was not some ordinary book. She said that what Prabhupada was saying is what Jesus Christ said, and that Krishna is God. I was very surprised. She said we should listen to what Prabhupada said and chant Hare Krishna, because that was the religion for this age. There was a lot of talk about how Christianity was no more and no one was following the Bible. What Prabhupada said was pure and perfect. Paragraph. Things really took a turn from there. One day my grandmother visited the Namahata Center here in Pex, and she began to chant on beads. She also began to buy Prabhupada's books one by one. She was spending all her pension buying what she called the beautiful Holy Bhagavatam. Sometimes she could only afford to eat potatoes, but she kept on buying books. The devotees even came to her flat and helped her set up an altar. When I went upstairs, there were Krishna pictures everywhere. That was really the beginning. One night, Granny had a dream about Prabhupada. Something really happened to her then. I don't know what it was, but she began to get very enthusiastic. She began to get the whole family involved. I mean, not just me and my mother and sister, but her 2 sons, the wives, 6 children, as well as her brothers, sisters, and relatives. Before, she used to carry a Bible with her and quote Jesus Christ. Now she has Bhagavad Gita and she quotes the good Lord Prabhupada. She became a veritable transcendental terror. Everyone in the family had to chant at least 1 round a day. In addition to Granny, made everyone become a vegetarian, including my dog. And we offered our food to a picture of Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. Paragraph. Now I'm getting out of Maya and chanting and reading a little also. Where I go to school, my friends inquire about Krishna. Since they know I'm a devotee, the whole family goes to the Namahata, all 16 of us. During the Christmas marathon, we all tried to distribute Prabhupada's books. Even Granny would take out books to the market and sell them to the vendors. Everyone is afraid of her because she's fearless. They all think she has gone crazy, but she doesn't care. Now she is saving to go to Budapest to see the newly installed deities. She has heard that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to Hungary, and they're being worshipped there by the devotees. She says she wants to see God just once in this life. At this year's Hare Krishna festival, you, Shivram Maharaj, we're speaking to the guests, and after the kirtan, you must remember my grandmother because she came and sat right beside you and asked so many questions. At the end, when you stood up to leave, she even kissed your hand, remember? I also wanted to ask a question, but I was shy. Could I please ask you now? She has a whole series of questions. Who knows? Who knows? During Prabhupada's time, the Hare Krishna explosion, and it was all over. It was around the world. Kaboom. And along with the holy name, which was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift, and wanted us to encourage other Hari Hari. And then they could become ecstatic and give to others. It's going on. So let it not fade. Book distribution goes well with Harinam. It's not that if you don't have Harinam, you can't distribute books. It's not if you distribute books, you can't have Harinam. They go well together. Figure it out in your local place. Prasadam distribution goes well with anything. And that's our Hare Krishna movement. That's Lord Chaitanya's gift to the world. For what end? It's not just get followers, get some money, build something, get some recognition, and get some enemies too. That's not the objective. Let's be instruments of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And you never know. There's Granny, and there's this young kid across the street from the Henry Street Temple in Brooklyn. And who knows? So many other anecdotal stories. So many. I get these from time to time, and I'll send another one. Who should I send it to? Okay, I'll send it to you. Another one. Somebody in Brazil met somebody in the forest, and they previously were an airline stewardess, and they snatched some of the prasadam off of Prabhupada's plate on the airplane and ate it. And after that, they became a devotee. They went back and lived in the forest. They got Prabhupada's book, set up an altar, and somebody's doing door to door in the forest and met this lady who's a Vaishnavi in the forest because they took some Mahaprasadam from Prabhupada and then got Prabhupada's books and started chanting. I mean, you never know. It's not always going to end like that, but you never know. That's Mahaprabhu's gesture to the everybody when he started in a South India tour, which is exemplary of the purpose of his mission. And then that was passed on to all of us. So we're recipients of mercy that we can't measure. And how do you repay back mercy you can't measure? It's a lifetime of paying back what we received. And one of the things of going forward with giving the mercy that you've received is you get a deeper appreciation of what it is. It goes more into your heart, and you have more of an appreciation of what it is that you've been given. Both. It grows within you, and it grows outside also. That's Mahaprabhu's mercy. So we're going to hear some more about that tomorrow. And the purpose of going through all this is that's why we're here. This is the place where Mahaprabhu came, and he danced before these three deities. Doesn't say much about what that experience was, as it does at some other places, but I'm sure there was some exchange, and I'm sure there was transformation for the people that saw his transcendental mood of love for Krishna. And similarly, we, as we're going about in our yatras and in our lives, be exemplary. Because if people don't know, they'll come to know. If they don't come to know, they should. That you're Krishna's devotee. And be an exemplary devotee, because that's a very compelling demonstration of what becoming a devotee means, is how you live your life, the qualities that you display. And you're chanting 8 rounds before you engage in kirtan. And becoming part of the Naperville Temple and learn from Premananda and whoever she's going to bring there to, the ways and characteristics and qualities of a worshipper of the deity. And I have some further thoughts on that topic. The qualities of a brahmana. Not just pass Bhakti Shastri, check the box, get a letter of recommendation, check the box, get Brahminical initiation, the bell rings. What is exhibiting the qualities and characteristics of a brahmana look like? Maybe some people have an idea. Maybe some people don't really have an idea. Maybe we should have some training and education along those lines, so that our behavior and our conduct and character can be compelling reason for people to go, wow, this is a good Hare Krishna movement. This is good. This is good. Let me find out more about it. That should be the impact, not the other kind. So that's why we're here. Receive that gift from Lord Chaitanya. Let's see if there's some discussion. It's 3:26. Do we have like a cutoff time or what? We're already late. Okay, so discussion tomorrow. Yes? Discussion tomorrow. You have a 3-hour journey going back, so it's 3:30. So we'll see you tomorrow. What's the tomorrow schedule? You want to let them know what tomorrow's schedule is? Go ahead.